I watched the debate between Bill Nye the Science Guy and Ken Ham, the creationist or the Christian. And I tried to put it in terms that everyone could understand. And the only thing that really came to mind was it was a lot like watching the Green Bay Packers play Manchester United in a game of football. You see, the Packers had run into one of the players from the British Football League and invited him to come and play up in Green Bay. And they said, "It's football, right?" "Oh yeah, it's football." And so they met on a field. They both agreed that they should play on a field. Now, there were fans from both sides on either side of the stadium, and they all understood the rules of their football and what it took to win. And they all agreed that you had to have a ball and that there were players on either side. That's what it was like. And there was a lot of pushing and shoving and and all the fans cheered on both sides because, everybody was scoring points, at least from their own version of football. It wasn't really polite what the Packers did, though, because, they left all their gear on, and there was a few British football players that went to the sidelines. But that's what the debate was like, if you understand British football and you understand American football. You really can't cheer for either side because they really didn't agree to play with a common understanding, with common rules, and make some kind of sense out of their differences. That's what the whole debate was like. And how do you summarize that? The police officer showed up at the scene, right? He asked the British football fans one thing, he asked the American football fans the same stuff, and he wrote up a history of it. It's a lot like if a police officer showed up here on a Sunday morning after people have been partying all night on the street, and he took all of his gear and some few detectives, and he made a story about what happened last night on the street out here. And then I show up and I'm like, well, I'm an eyewitness of some of it anyhow. How are you going to get a straight story from just what the physical evidence they could gather? How are you going to get a straight story from what I saw when I was looking? Think about it. That's what the debate was like. We have this recorded history of what happened at the Little Bighorn. Well, we have the military's history, we have the American natives' history, and then they go out with science and they go through actual physical facts. You can imagine how this debate is going to play out in the years, except, we actually have a record of it. Go back further and further in time, you have fewer witnesses, you have less physical evidence, which is subject to more interpretation by people who were schooled in their narrow ideas of thought. I mean, 200 years ago, explain this video to somebody. One light bulb is staying on. The others aren't turned on. Even though I can click the clicker here. Why is that? Explain that to somebody 150 years ago, or just when the electric light first came on. You got a switch. Why does the teddy bear only have one eye? Think about it. Even Dawkins, renowned atheist. Well, nobody was there in the beginning. We really don't know. We're just basing it on, if you're going on science, observable evidence. If you're going by faith, you have a book. If you pull in string theory, M theory, quantum mechanics, and all of that, I mean, the possibility exists that other dimensions exist. We don't know everything about everything. How do you know? You can't know everything by science. You got to accept some witness. Talk to a Christian. Oh yeah, I'm a spiritual being. I believe in a higher, more powerful spiritual beings. Talk to secularists who don't believe in God. They say, well, I'm a spiritual being. I believe in the spiritual. So we both believe in the spiritual. So again, the Packers and Manchester United have agreed to play football in Green Bay. That's what it was all like. We're all playing football. Calling it the same thing. Who's winning? Based on what set of rules? I get as much as I can? Or love does no harm? That's what the whole debate was like. Manchester United playing the Green Bay Packers in January. Well, no, they didn't agree to play in January because even the British know January is not the time to be outside in a stadium that is not covered. So they were at least inside. But that summarizes it all. That you get a Christian, a Buddhist, and a secularist who all agree that we're spiritual beings. Throw in a little M theory, throw in a little quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement. You get the physical possibilities that other dimensions exist. Hey, could there be another version of football? Let me think. I think they call it rugby. Well, how many different ball games do we have? They all have a ball. They all play on a field. Is it possible that there are alternative ball games other than football? Do they have the same rules, the same principles? Let me think. I think string theory started out with 5 different possibilities. 5 different parallel universes. There are 5 different ball games that could go on. Well, I don't know. There's football, there's rugby, there's lacrosse, basketball. Oh no, wait a minute. Maybe there are multiple variations multiple dimensions of ball games that could be played simultaneously, and they're all, we go out to the ball game. Better be careful which ballpark you're playing in. The balls may be different. The rules may be different. Imagine if a lacrosse team showed up in a tennis court. All these possible universes colliding with one another. And they're all having a ball. That's what the debate was like. The Packers and Manchester United. And afterwards, the teams are sitting in their bars, picking up their flasks and saying, "We did a great job! We did a great job!" That summarizes it. So why is the light bulb off when the other one's on? Is it the switch? Are they connected to a different power source? It's both light. Think about it. Electricity is AC and it is DC. There are men and women. We each have our own interpretation of the reality that goes on around us. Doesn't mean the other doesn't exist or the other isn't valid necessarily in their realm. People really ought to agree on the same rules in the game that they're playing and simply not point at the other person and say, based on my rules, what you're doing isn't valid. And that's pretty much a summary. Figure it out. Enjoy.